Hello, we are Group 2 and we are here to discuss the second part of the fourth module, which is entitled Geology, Earth Resources, and Climate Change. So, rocks. Rocks are solid, cohesive aggregate of one or more mineral or mineral materials. It consists of many individual mineral grains, not necessarily all the same mineral or crystal plus glass which are firmly held together as a solid mass. So which meaning ng solid cohesive aggregate, ibig sabihin siya ay combination ng iba't ibang particles ng minerals. So it does not limit sa iisang type ng mineral particles ang makikita natin sa isang rock. There are three broad categories of rock, namely igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. And these three are distinguished by the process of their formation. There is no single sample of rock that has remained unchanged since the Earth was formed. Ibig sabihin nito, walang bato na hindi nagpalit ng form simula noon hanggang ngayon. Because rocks undergo change, and this change is brought to you by the rock cycle. And inside the rock cycle, there are many different processes that will change a rock into a different type of rock. So next is categories of rocks. So remember, rocks are categorized depending on how they are formed. So the first category is the igneous rock. Igneous rock are formed by solidification and crystallization of the cooling magma. So what is a magma? Magma is the name given to a naturally occurring hot molten rock material. So the word igneous comes from the Latin term ignis, meaning fire. Examples of igneous rock. So first example is the plutonic igneous rock. This igneous rock is formed below the Earth's surface. The name is derived from Pluto, the Greek god of the lower world. One of the most widely known example of plutonic rock is granite. Compositionally, typical granite contains principally of quartz and feldspars and is usually contains some ferromagnesian minerals or other silicates. Next is volcanic. It is an igneous rock formed at or close the Earth's surface. Magma that crystallizes very near or on the Earth's surface cools rapidly. And dahil nga meron silang lesser time during crystallization, ang nagiging itsura ng volcanic rocks are typically fine grain with most crystals too small to be seen or distinguished with the naked eye. Next category of rock is the sediments and sedimentary rocks. Sediments are loose, unconsolidated accumulations of minerals or rock particles that have been transported by wind, water, or ice, or shifted under the influence of gravity and redeposit. Sediments are formed through the weathering of pre-existing rocks. Weathering could be directly or indirectly. Directly, in the sense that it could be physically broken up into finer and finer fragments, or indirectly by chemicals or solutions followed by precipitation of crystals out of solution. When sediments are compacted or cemented together into a solid, cohesive mass, they become sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are formed at low temperatures. Ang tawag sa process na kung saan ang sediments ay nagiging sedimentary rocks is called the lithification. It comes from the Greek word lithos, meaning stone. At ang rocks na nabubuo mula sa lithification is generally more compact and denser compared to the original sediment. There are two groups of sedimentary rocks, which is clastic sedimentary rocks and chemical sedimentary rocks. So first one is the clastic sedimentary rocks. It comes from the Greek word klastos, meaning broken. These types of rocks were formed from the products of the mechanical breakup of other rocks. On the other hand, chemical sedimentary rocks are from crystals formed by precipitation or growth from solution. So basically, pinagkaiba lang ng dalawa is yung sediment or yung material na ginamit para ma-form yung rocks. So, sa clastic sedimentary rocks, ang gamit is yung particles ng rock na mechanically break up yung dinurog na rocks. And on the other hand, sa chemical sedimentary rocks, ang gamit na particles doon is yung chemical sediments. Regardless of the grain size, clastic sedimentary rocks tend to have relatively considerable pore spaces between the grains. This is logical consequence of the way in which these rocks were formed, by piling up pre-existing rocks and mineral grains. Meaning lang nito na ang clastic sedimentary rocks ay may pores. Kasi hindi naman sa lahat ng pagkakataon pumapasok yung ibang parts ng sediments. So kaya nagkakaroon ng parang medyo maliliit na butas-butas sa pagitan ng mga sediments sa clastic sedimentary rocks. Sa kabilang banda naman, ang chemical sedimentary rocks, ang kanyang chemical sediments have a large biological contribution. A sequence of sedimentary rocks may include layers of organic sediments, which is carbon-rich remains of living organisms. And another example is coal, which is derived from the remains of land plants that flourished and died in swamps. These are some examples of the clastic and the chemical sedimentary rocks. Tulad ng sabi ko kanila, yung pinagkaiba lang ng dalawang type ng rocks is yung type ng sediment na ginamit para ma-form to. Like for example, the sandstone. Sandstone is gawa siya sa grain ng sand. Next naman is yung shale. Yung shale is made up of finer grained sediments and the individual grains cannot be seen by the naked eye. Ang conglomerate naman is gawa sa fragment or parts ng rocks na kalimitan ang size is above 2 mm in diameter. So basically, siya ay parang pinagsama-samang small rocks. Next naman is the examples of chemical sedimentary rocks. Next is limestone. So ang kanyang main material para mabuo is calcite or the calcium carbonate. Rock salt naman is made up of mineral halite, which is the mineral name for the ordinary table salt or the sodium chloride. Last but not the least sa categories ng rocks is the metamorphic rocks. The name metamorphic comes from the Greek for changed form. A metamorphic rock is one that has formed from another pre-existing rock that has been subjected to heat and or pressure. Heat and pressure commonly cause the minerals in the rock to recrystallize. The original minerals may form larger crystals that perhaps interlock more tightly than before. Metamorphism is the process in which where rocks undergo to become a metamorphic rock. So metamorphism is the change that takes place within a body of rock as a result of it being subjected to high pressure and or high temperature. May two types ng metamorphism. First is the contact metamorphism. This involves hot magma. Kapag tumaas yung hot magma sa shallower levels of the crust at nainitan yung mga cooler rocks, maaaring mag-metamorphosize yung mga rocks na yon. Another type of the metamorphism is the regional metamorphism. And this type of metamorphism does not include magma. This metamorphism is the result from the stresses and the heating of rocks from the mountain building or the plate tectonic movements. Examples of metamorphic rocks: metaconglomerate and metavolcanic. Metaconglomerate is a metamorphosized conglomerate, and metavolcanic is a metamorphosized volcanic rock. Quartzite, on the other hand, is often formed from a very quartz-rich sandstone. Next is marble, which is a metamorphosized limestone in which the individual calcite grains have recrystallized and become tightly interlocking. Ambifolite naman is a metamorphic rock which is rich in ambipole. So hindi siya katulad ng ibang metamorphic rock na mayroong parent rock katulad ng marble galing sa limestone. Ang ambifolite is kahit anong rock basta siya ay makover ng ambipole, siya ay tinatawag ng ambifolite. Foliation, from the Latin for leaf. It is a resultant textures when a rock is subjected to directed stress. Minerals that form elongated or platy crystals may line up parallel to each other. Example of a rock that has a texture of foliation is slate. Slate is a metamorphosized shale that has developed foliation under stress. Another example is the schist. Schist is a coarser-grained, mica-rich metamorphic rocks in which the mica flakes are similarly oriented.
The rock cycle. It is the basic concept of geology that describes transition through geologic times among the three main rock types: the igneous rock, sedimentary rock, and the metamorphic rock. It describes the formation, breakdown, and reformation of rocks as a result from the three processes. And as you can see from the illustration, this is how a rock cycle happened: from igneous to sedimentary, sedimentary to metamorphic, and metamorphic to igneous, and vice versa. It also shows that temperature and pressure affects certain rock formation. And basically, a variety of geologic processes can transform any rock into new rock of the same or different class. The geologic environment is not static, it is constantly changing, as the same as the illustration. Any type of rock may be found at the Earth's surface and weathered through the melts that form volcanic rocks are created at depth. The melts crystallize into rock near the surface and so on. A good example of the rock cycle is the sandstone. Sandstone may be weathered until it breaks up. Its fragment may be then transported, redeposited, and datified to form another sedimentary rock. So, an ocean-continent convergence zone. It illustrates some of the many ways in which plate tectonic activity transforms rock. A good example is the continents erode, producing sediments to make sedimentary rocks. A stenosphere melts to make magma to form new igneous rock, as it also does at spreading ridges. Note that no rocks are preserved indefinitely. All are caught up in this cycle of continuous change. Economic geology and mineralogy. So economic mineralogy is the study of resources that are valuable for manufacturing. Most economic minerals are metal-bearing ores, minerals with unusual high concentrations of metals. Metals have been so important in human affairs that major epochs of human history are commonly known by their dominant materials and the technology involved in using those materials. Metals have been important in humans since the start of the Stone Age up to these days because it plays an important role not only for the use of one person but also for our economy because it is an important part for domestic and international commerce. Mineralogists have identified some 4,400 different mineral species than on any of our neighboring planets. The processes of plate tectonics and the rock cycle on these planets have gradually concentrated on common elements and allowed them to crystallize into new minerals. Most of Earth's minerals are oxides, but there was little free oxygen in the atmosphere until it was released by photosynthetic organisms, thus triggering evolution of our great variety of minerals. So mining, processing, and distribution of these materials have broad implications for both our culture and our environment. The metals consumed in greatest quantity by the world industry. Annually, iron consumed 740 million metric tons, aluminum 40 million metric tons, manganese 22.4 million metric tons, copper and chromium with 8 million metric tons each, and nickel with 0.7 million metric tons. So the rapid growth of green technologies such as the renewable energy and the electric vehicles has made a group of rare earth metals especially important. Worries about impending shortages of these minerals complicate future developments in this sector. So most of these metals are highly consumed in the United States, Japan, and Europe. And the largest sources of metals are in China, Australia, Russia, Canada, and the United States. To some extent, the abundance of ores in these countries is simply a matter of land area, but Africa has relatively little metal ore. As you can see in the table, this is the primary uses of some major metals consumed in the United States. So aluminum is used for packaging foods, chromium for alloys, copper for building constructions, electric and electronic industries, iron for heavy machinery, lead for gasolines, manganese for high-strength heat-resistant steel alloys, nickel for chemical industry, platinum, the automobile, gold for medical, aerospace, electronic uses, silver for photography, electronics, and jewelry. Non-metals are broad class that covers resources from silicate minerals like gemstones, mica, talc, and asbestos, to sand, gravel, salts, limestones, and soils. So, non-metals are durable, highly valuable, and easily portable. Gemstones and precious metals have long been a way to store and transport wealth. Despite this, valuable materials have been bankrolled despots, criminal gangs, and terrorism in many countries. So, in order to protect this, civil rights organizations are campaigning to require better documentation of the origins of gems and precious metals to prevent their use as financing for crimes against humanity. And who knows that our diamond ring or gold wedding ring that we cherished are from inhuman labor conditions and environmental destructive mining and processing methods. Sand and gravel production comprised by the far greatest volume and dollar value of all non-metal mineral resources. Sand and gravel are used mainly in brick and concrete construction and also for paving, and as well as the loose road filler and for sandblasting. So high purity silica sand is our source of glass. So this high purity silica sand can be retrieved from surface pit mines and quarries, where they are being deposited by glaciers, winds, or the ancient oceans. Environmental effects of resource extraction. Mining and purifying all these resources can have severe environmental and social consequences. And the most obvious effect of mining is often the disturbance or removal of the land surface. Further reaching effects include air and water pollution. Also, pollution from chemical and sediment runoff is a major problem in many local watersheds. Gold and other metals are often found in sulfide ores. When these minerals are exposed to air and water, they produce sulfuric acid, which is highly mobile and strongly acidic, which can cause problems in our health. After using water in ore processing, much of the water contains sulfuric acid, arsenic, heavy metals, and other contaminants. Mine runoff leaking into lakes and streams damages or destroys aquatic ecosystems. Serious environmental impacts of mining. First is the placer mining. So pure nuggets are washed from stream sediments, and this method which chokes stream ecosystem with sediment. Placer mining is an ancient method of accumulating gold, diamonds, and coal. So another ancient and much more dangerous method is the underground mining. So mine tunnels occasionally collapse and natural gas in coal mines can explode. Water into mine shafts dissolves into toxic minerals, and these contaminate water. This contaminated water seeps into groundwater. It is also pumped to the surface, where it enters streams and lakes. Underground coal mines. Another major environmental risk is fires. So hundreds of coal mines smolder in United States, China, Russia, India, South Africa, and the Europe. So toxic fumes, explosive methane, and other hazardous emissions are also released from these fires. Open pit mines. It is used to extract massive beds of metal ores and other minerals. So example of these open pit mines is the Bingham Canyon mine. More than 5 billion tons of copper ore and waste material have been removed from the hold since 1906. Over mountaintop removal. A coal mining method mainly practiced in Appalachia along. Sinuous ridge tops are removed by giant mining machines to expose horizontal beds of coal. The debris can be laden with selenium, arsenic, coal, and other toxic substances. So another serious environmental impact of mining is the surface or stripe mines. So half the coal used in the United States comes from this. Because coal is often found in expansive horizontal beds, the entire land surface can be stripped away to cheaply and quickly expose the coal. Processing ore's negative impact. So, by using the method of smelting or the roasting of ore and the heap leach extractions, ores can be extracted. So, the negative impact of smelting is it is a major source of air pollution. One of the most notorious examples of ecological devastation from smelting is a wasteland near Ducktown, Tennessee. And the second one is the heap leach extraction, which is often used to get metals from low-grade ore and has a high potential for environmental contamination. A cyanide solution sprayed on a large pile of ore to dissolve gold that can leak into surface or groundwater.
Conservation of geological resources. Conservation offers great potential for extending our supplies of economic minerals and reducing the effects of mining and processing. Sa pagko-conserve ng ating geological resources ay nakakapagpatagal ito ng ating supply sa tulong ng di paggalaw o pagkuha ng mga mineral sa isang lugar. Nakababawas din ito sa mga effects ng mining kagaya ng flash floods and landslide which normally occur sa mga mining sites. The advantages of conservation are also significant. Less waste to dispose of. Sa pagko-conserve, nababawasan ang waste na ating naipoproduce dahil wala tayong napaprocess na mineral kagaya ng ore which undergoes a process of smelting. At sa process na yon, maraming waste product tayong matatanggal bago ito maging raw material. Less land to loss to mining. Yun nga, nasasave natin yung mga lugar na prone sa mining. Less consumption of money, energy, and water resources. Dahil sa pagkakonserve, nakababawas tayo sa pag-consume ng money, energy, and water resources na kung saan ito ay nagagamit sa pagpaprocess ng mineral upang maging raw material. Recycling. Recycling is slowly increasing as raw materials become more scarce and waste product become more plentiful. Sinasabi dito na mas dumadami daw yung waste kesa sa mga raw materials na dumadating. Examples, recycling waste aluminum consume 1/28 of the energy of extracting new materials. New aluminum. Energy is used to extract new material from scrap. Platinum is valuable enough to be regularly retrieved and recycled from used car. Yun nga, dahil sa madami na ding mga cars na hindi ginagamit o yung iba ay nakatambak lang, we can use those to recycle o makuha natin yung mga parts na pwede pang magamit o may recycle. Other metals commonly recycled are gold, silver, copper, lead, iron, and steel. Pinapakita dito na kung ilang energy ang kailangan para ma-extract ang new materials from scrap. Ang glass daw ay kailangan ng 25 megajoules per kilogram para maging new material. Steel ay kailangan ng 50, plastic kailangan ng 162, aluminum ay kailangan 250, titanium ay kailangan ng 400, copper ay kailangan ng 600, and paper ay kailangan ng 24 megajoule per kilogram para maging new material. New materials. Minerals and metal consumption can be reduced by the materials or new technologies developed to replace traditional uses. Sinasabi dito na kung ano ang mas maganda o mas matibay mas bago, yun ang nagiging in demand. Kagaya ng example, bronze replaced stone technology and iron replaced bronze. Yun nga, kung anong mas matibay, yun ang mas nagiging in demand o mas ginagamit. O nagiging luma na yung ibang material dahil sa kanilang structure. Introduction of plastic pipe has decreased our consumption of copper, lead, and steel pipes. Ang copper, lead, and steel pipes ay pwedeng kalawangin at ito ay mabigat pag ikukumpara sa isang plastic pipe. Development of fiber optic technology and satellite communication reduce the needs for copper telephone wires. The fiber optic cable ay hindi nagko-conduct ng electrical current at mayroong resistance sa fire, lightning, electromagnetic interference, and radio signals na kung saan ay kabaliktaran ng copper telephone wires. Geological hazards. Earthquakes are sudden movements in the Earth's crust that occur along the faults where one rock mass slides past another one. Nagkakaroon ng earthquake kapag may dalawang plate na nag-slide, volcanic eruption, o paggalaw ng existing fault line. Tsunamis are giant sea waves triggered by earthquakes or landslide. The name is derived from the Japanese for harbor waves because the waves are often noticed only when they approach shore. Mas mataas at mas malakas kaysa regular na wave na makikita natin. Pwede ito mangyari kapag nag-earthquake, landslide, volcanic eruption. Kaya nitong i-wipe out ang mga bagay, gusali, tao na madadaanan o matatamaan nito. Volcanoes and undersea magma vent produce much of the Earth's crust. Volcanoes have also been an ever-present threat to human population. Isa na dito ay ang Taal volcano na recently ay nag-erupt. Madaming tao na pinsala. Ang pagsabog ng isang bulkan ay napakapanganib sa mga tao na nakabalibot dito. Ito ay naglalabas ng lava, molten rocks, ashes, at pwede ring magkalahar kapag umulan. Ang paglanghap ng ashes o abo ay makaranas na mahirap na paghinga. Natitrigger din dito ang earthquake dahil sa pagsabog, at pwede din ang tsunami kapag ito ay naganap sa ilalim ng tubig. Mass wasting, in which geological materials are moved downslope from one place to another. Landslide is general term for rapid downslope movement of soil or rock. Pagguho ng bato, lupa galing sa bundok dahil sa patuloy na pag-ulan o sa kawalan ng pundasyon o punong humahawak sa lupa. Ang pagmimina at pagpuputol ng illegal ay isa sa sanhi nito. Floods are normal events that cause damage when people get in the way. River curves and shape the landscape. They build broad plains, level expanses that are periodically inundated. Pagtaas ng tubig sa mga ilog, nagkakaroon din ng mga bagong daan na tubig na nagiging sanhi ng pagbaha. Beach erosion. occurs in all sandy shorelines because the motion of the wave is constantly distributing sands and other sediments. Tinatawag din tong coastal erosion. Nadadala ng mga alon ang mga buhangin na kung saan natatanggal ang mga sediments along the coastline. Weather and climate. Weather refers to the atmospheric conditions occur locally over the short periods of time, from minutes to hours or days. Sinasabi dito, ang weather daw ay ang pagbabago ng panahon sa isang specific na lugar. Ang pwede kong example dito ay, kunwari, dito sa Batangas ay naulan, pero sa ating mga karat na bayan ay hindi naulan. Climate refers to the long-term regional or even global average of temperature, humidity, and rainfall patterns over seasons, years, or decades. Sinasabi dito, malaking lugar ang nakakaranas ng pagbabago ng panahon at tumatagal din ito, pwedeng buwan or taon. Example dito ay sa buong Pilipinas ay nakakaranas ng araw-araw na pag-ulan. Greenhouse effect. Warming the result when the atmosphere traps heat radiating from the earth towards space. Gases that contribute to the greenhouse effects include water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, oxide, chlorofluorocarbons. Ang greenhouse gases ay pinapainit o tinatrap niya yung heat na nanggagaling sa sun. Kaya lalong umiinit o lalo nating nararamdaman ang init na gawa ng o ating nararamdaman galing sa araw. Greenhouse effect. The consequences of changing the natural atmospheric greenhouse are Earth will become warmer. Sa pagdami ng greenhouse gases ay lalong umiinit ang ating mundo. Directly proportional ang temperature ng nanggagaling sa ating araw at ang amount ng greenhouse gases na ating nailalabas. Ibig sabihin, sa pagdami ng ating greenhouse gases ay sa pag-init lalo ng ating mundo. Warmer conditions will lead to more evaporation and precipitation overall. Dahil sa sobrang init ng ating nararamdaman o nararanasan dahil sa pagdami ng greenhouse gases ay lalong natitrigger yung evaporation, lalong na-evaporize yung mga bodies of water na directly naiinitan. A stronger greenhouse effect will warm the ocean, thus melting glaciers and other ice increase the sea level. Dahil nga mas umiinit ang ating mundo o yung surface ay unti-unting natutunaw yung mga glacier o yung mga yelo mula sa North at South Pole. Dahil doon, tumataas ang ating sea level at maaring madaming lugar sa buong mundo ang lumubog. Higher temperatures and shifting climate patterns change the areas where crops grows best and affect the makeup and natural plant community. Yun nga, mahirap na din ngayon i-predict ang panahon kung ano mangyayari sa araw-araw. Uulan ba o iinit? Sobra ito makakapekto sa ating agricultural economy. Global warming. The long-term heating of the Earth's climate system observed since the pre-industrial period between 1850 and 1900s due to human activities, primarily fossil fuels burning, which increase heating trapping greenhouse gas level in Earth's atmosphere. Yun nga, from sa pangalan, the global warming o yung pag-init ng buong mundo. Ang mga sanhi nito ay yung mga factories o mga sasakyan na naglalabas ng mga greenhouse gases at pati din yung mga pagsusunog ng mga plastic na normal na para sa atin. Climate change, a long-term change in average weather patterns that have come to define Earth's local, regional, and global climates. Yun nga, sinasabi sa climate change, ito yung pagbabago ng panahon sa isang lugar o local, regional, or globally. Minsan, ito hindi inasan o hindi ito umaakmas sa taon na nangyayari ito. Kuwari, alam naman natin sa December ay sobrang lamig pero ang ating panahon ay sobrang init o hindi natin nararamdaman yung lamig ng simoy ng hangin sa buwan na yon. Natural process can contribute to climate change including internal variability. Example nito ay yung cycles ocean patterns like El Nino and La Nina. An external forcing, example naman ito ay yung volcanic activity, changes in sun's energy output. Yon, ito yung mga change na pwede mangyari like El Nino o yung matinding tagtuyot na ating nararanasan ng mga araw o pwedeng tumagal siya ng buwan. Para naman sa La Nina, ito yung matagal o araw-araw na pag-ulan na ating nararanasan na pwedeng ding araw o abutin siya ng buwan nang walang tigil. Evidence of climate change key indicators. Global land and ocean temperatures increases. Nga sa pagtaas ng greenhouse gases ay nataas din ang temperature ng surface ng mundo. Kasama na din dito yung mga bodies of water. Dahil patuloy na umiinit, kaya umiinit na din yung mga bodies of water kagaya ng ocean. Rising of sea levels. Natutunaw na yung mga yelo sa North Pole and South Pole kaya tumataas o dumadagdag yung mga natutunaw na yelo sa ating sea level. Ito'y magiging sanhi ng maraming lugar na paglubog, lalo na yung mga mabababang lugar o kasing kapantay lang siya ng ating sea level. Ice loss at Earth's pole and in mountain glacier. Yun nga, dahil nga lalong umiinit ay natutunaw yung mga yelo sa North Pole and South Pole, lalo din sa mga mountain o doon sa mga matataas na lugar kagaya ng Mountain Everest o yung mga nagyayalong bundok. Frequency and severity changes in extreme weather such as hurricane, heat waves, wildfire, and drought. Dahil nga sa climate change ay lalong nagiging violento yung o mapinsala ang mga kalamidad na ating nararanasan. Cloud and vegetation covers changes. Nga yung dahil sobrang init ay ang ating panahon ay naapektuhan din yung maraming lugar. Kagaya ng mga rainforest, lalong kumakapal yung mga vegetation na nako-cover. Future effects of climate change. Change will continue through this century and beyond. Yon, dahil patuloy na umiinit o dumadami yung greenhouse gases ay patuloy din na mangyayari ang climate change sa mga darating na maraming taon. Frost-free season will lengthen. Yun nga, hindi na nagiging balance yung ating mga season. Season para sa taglamig ay humahaba at yung ibang season naman ay umiikli. Change in precipitation pattern. Nag-iiba din yung precipitation pattern natin dahil sa matinding init. Lalo na sa parte na kung saan mainit o yung lugar malapit sa equator. More drought and heat waves. Ito yung pinaka malalang nangyayari na sanhi ng greenhouse gases. Yung sobrang init na ating mararanasan ay di na talaga natin kaya o yung hindi na natin magawa ng paraan. Kagaya ng mga drought sa mga bansang malapit sa equator, yung kagaya ng Egypt, Africa, nauubusan sila ng mga resource like water. Hurricane will become stronger and more intense. Lalong uminit ang mundo, lalong lumalakas at mapinsalaan yung mga sakuna na nangyayari kagaya ng mga bagyo. Lalong lumalaki o sobrang lakas ang kanilang damage na nagagawa kapag tumama na ito sa lupa. Sea level will rise 1 to 8 feet by 2,100. Yun nga, tumataas na yung sea level dahil yung mga yelo sa North Pole at South Pole ay unti-unti nang natutunaw. Yung mga yelong natutunaw ay hindi na uli sila nagiging yelo uli. Kaya patuloy lang at patuloy na tumataas ang ating sea level. Arctic likely become ice-free dahil patuloy lang na natutunaw, unti-unting nauubos yung yelo na nandoon at dumadagdag lang siya ng dumadagdag sa sea level dahil sa pagtaas ng sea level ay maraming lugar na kapantay ng sea level ngayon ang lumulubog.